There you go.
There we go. I hit
All
it.
right. Hey, everyone. I am with my friend Tony Gonzalez, and Tony and I have been friends on Facebook for many years, and we legitimately agree on and align on almost every single thing that we discuss and all of our viewpoints on health, fitness, relationships. You name it. If you watch his
Yeah.
videos, and I hope you guys do, you'll see it. So, Tony, thanks so much for jumping on with me, my friend.
Yeah,
Um,
man. Absolutely. My pleasure.
you and the main topic that we want to discuss today, and it's been a topic of a lot of your videos as of recent, and especially a few that I've reposted, is men in their 40s. I'll speak to the 30-year-olds because I'm 37, 36, I'll be 37 soon. Men in their
Okay.
40s, 30s on up, give up. And it's becoming an issue, I think. And Tony, but take it from there, man. What are your thoughts on that?
100%. And I'm not going to say where I work, but I've been working at the same place for about 16 years now. So, and it is a great place to see
It is.
the people. It's all I see. Now, granted, I understand that it's relative to where I live. I live in Spartanburg County,
Okay.
South Carolina. It's a little different. I would imagine if I worked at the same place in Arizona, which I have a friend of mine that actually does, the
Different.
it's a little different
It
there.
is. Yeah. Yeah.
And I understand that. But what I see on a daily basis, and I'm not, this is not coming from a place of judgment. It's coming from a place of it really breaks my heart. And
Yeah.
a lot of people question that. They question why do you care? And you know what? I don't really question why I care. I just know I do. I know when I see someone, it brings me sadness. I don't it's not I'm looking at them and judging them. I'm looking at them and thinking, what has happened in your life where as a
Yeah.
man
The guy, right.
you have just let yourself go completely. And I mean, and when I say that, I mean physically. I don't know
Yeah.
what's going on in someone's head. I don't know what's
Yeah.
going on in someone's life.
Right.
I just know from, a physical standpoint, it's obvious to me that somewhere along the line you've given up.
You just threw in the towel. And Tony, I agree. And I did a post a while ago on this, and I just did it, and not necessarily just guys, but in general, I always said that at what point in your life did you just say, I'm done? I don't care what I look like, what I feel like, my health. I just don't care because there's a breaking point. And being 36 years old, I'm not sure if you've seen some of my stuff because I'm having some back problems again. I can
Hmm.
give up. I can give up right now. It's how much pain I'm in every single day. I could just throw in the towel. But what example that set for my son, my family,
Right.
the people that follow me on social media that I've been a epitome of fitness and stuff. Like, what would that show someone that I'm just going to give up? And that I just don't see. I don't understand how if taking a guy in his 40s and he doesn't have any injuries or he doesn't have any illnesses and he
Right.
just they don't like to work out or eat healthy or anything of that nature. And again, you mentioned before, it's not about being jacked and shredded and
Right.
lifting a house. It's just
You don't have to
being
be a bodybuilder.
no, it's just being healthy and feeling good and then confidence. Every single thing comes along with working out, eating healthy and stuff like that. So it's really strange. At what point? Like, did a traumatic event happen in your life? Did something that you an injury happen where you're like, oh, I'm done. I can't work out ever again. Like why don't it's really confusing to me to see that. And I agree with you. I wholeheartedly agree.
I think one of the reasons there's honestly there's no standard, there's no pressure.
Yeah.
You know,
Well,
all you got to do is
the dad bod's in, whatever they want to call it, whatever. I have no idea what that means, but
well, every single time I hear the dad bod get brought up, this is my go-to, Alex, and you're free to use this, but this is my go-to. So if women prefer the dad bod, which is not true, if
I
if
like
that
it.
is true,
I know it's
then
coming.
why on the cover of every romantic novel is a guy with a six pack? Why
Right.
does the Magic Mike show in Las Vegas
Sell
get
out.
sold out every year? Why
Yep.
is it when I went to see, I think it was New Kids on the Block with my wife, she dragged me, It
Yeah,
was fine. I didn't mind going. But why
sure.
is it that when Donnie took his shirt off, I
It's
had to
crazy.
cover my ears
It went
because
crazy. I bet.
all the 40-year-old women in the audience were screaming. They're not
Yeah.
doing that for a dad bod. And I can tell you right now,
No,
that you're never going to see a dad bod on the cover of a romantic novel. It's just not going to
no.
happen.
And
So
yeah, dude,
I think
yeah,
part of that is most
100%.
women, and I'm going to catch some heat for this, and that's okay. But I think, most women are married to a guy with a dad bod. So what are they going to say?
You know,
What are they going to say?
and yeah, and listen, understood. Completely, that's understandable to a point. And I think I agree with you right down to the last letter in that sentence, my friend, because I think that women don't want to admit it. They don't want to be honest with their husbands and say like, "Hey, you're out of
Right,
shape. You know,
right.
I'm not as physically attracted to you." And blah, blah. But also, there's a flip side of things, my friend. And you know this, but not from your relationship. But I think something that I'll share is sometimes girls hate that you're in such good shape. So sometimes it's in essence it's a turnoff because they feel that they're competing with you in essence where every girl that I've dated since I started my fitness life and back when I was 21 years old, I had a conversation. I said, listen, this is what I do because I love it, not because I want to look good for anyone else but myself. And I want to feel
Right.
good and all that stuff. And at first, Tony, they were like, oh, yeah, that's awesome. You work out. It's great.
Hmm.
No, 5 days a week and I'm eating I eat healthy. And they're like, oh, you really do this all the time. And I'm like, no, I do it
Yeah.
on every third Sunday of the month. Like, what do you, I told you to your face,
Yeah.
this is my life. I love it. But
Yeah.
okay, on the flip side, how about I go do heroin and go to the bar? That make you feel better? Like I'm doing something healthy.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
but
It's
yeah,
why would you get any pushback for that is mind blowing.
crazy.
Thankfully, I have, when I met my wife, which we're going on, man, we'll actually known each other going on 30 years
It's awesome.
coming up. We've been married 22 plus years, but from day one, I was in the gym, and I have never in the 22 plus years, my wife has never given me any crap about going to the gym because she knows it's just part of who I am, you know.
And that's I wish other people felt that way and or even just adopted it. Like it's just for you and I to go to the gym every day is the same thing that we take a shower, we eat, we go to it's literally in the mix of our day. And I know you do. I personally believe it should be in everyone's. I don't care if you're walking around your block or you're going to the gym, or you're doing CrossFit, hiking, something physical more than what you're moving throughout your normal
Right.
workday, you should be doing.
Yes.
And just to keep cardiovascular health, muscle health. And the biggest thing is, I'm in healthcare. The biggest issue with people in their 40s, 50s, and 60s, they are more disease prone because the lack of muscle mass they have on their body,
Uh, of
the back
course. Of
issues,
course.
strength,
Yeah.
core, all this stuff. So it's a problem not only for the how you look and feel, but your longevity of your life, you know?
I just did a video recently on my TikTok, and basically I basically said, listen, I I have proof that it is hardwired in us. It is in our DNA to be muscular to a degree,
Hmm.
to be fit, and to be strong to a degree. And I'm
Yeah.
always careful because I always want to make sure, and I had to do this years ago. I had to make sure because people are always assuming that I expected men to be bodybuilders. So I always
Sure.
say, listen, I don't expect you to be a bodybuilder. I don't, but I just know that it's hardwired in our DNA. Here's how I know, and I know this happens to you probably on a damn daily because you are in phenomenal shape. There's a reason why men come up to me.
Yep.
And they're not, and this is again, I'm going to catch some heat, and that's okay. But I have a friend of mine who told me the other day, and he's kind of got a dad bod. He's a little overweight. He's trying, but he said no man has ever come up to me and asked me how did you achieve this?
To him.
to him.
Right. Of course.
But it happens to me I mean, it
Yep.
happens to me daily. When my wife and I go out, she
Yep.
does this thing with her eyes where she's kind of like, here it comes,
Yep.
and
Same. It's the
it's
same,
always
same thing.
it's always this. But for me, I don't know if you get this because you're younger than me, but for me, the first thing they ask is how old are you?
Yes. I don't get
Yeah.
that, but you do. Yes. I mean,
Yeah, you'll get that as you age and
eventually.
if you had
Yeah.
a white beard.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Yeah.
It, but
So I
it's
believe it's
funny.
hardwired in us.
Yeah, it is. And dude, you're so correct. And um, I don't think I like the way he put that. I don't think anyone has asked me that, how did you get your dad bod? I don't think that anyone would ever do that. But also too, it's interesting because when you walk into a restaurant or me or vice versa, it the way you look and carry yourself is seen by everybody. Not that I
Yeah.
care. I don't give a shit. I don't
Right.
care. I don't want to look for attention. I got enough of it in my 20s. I'm cool. But even business, I go to a business meeting with doctors. Every time I see a doctor, they're like, dude, like they look at me and they're like, oh man, you're in great shape.
Yeah.
The epitome of health in our world, and it's a conversation starter. It is an icebreaker. It's like,
Yes.
but also too, Tony, on the flip side, I I think, and my wheels turn all the time when you have those people that, will come up to you and be like, oh, hey, how much do you bench? Well, yeah, that's a fine question and everything, but I don't ask you how many cheeseburgers you had last week. It's kind of
Right.
weird. It's a
Yeah.
double standard. So it's like we
Right.
can't go and like, oh, hey, how much time you spend on your couch? Like I can't do that. I would never do that. I'm not, I have humility. I'm not gonna ever, but I think in my mind, if it was reversed, if I were
Right.
like,
Oh
hey,
yeah.
how much work don't you do? Like what?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a standard that it's kind of hard to get over, but I don't mind the attention.
And you're tall, right? How tall
Yeah,
are
I'm
you?
up 6'5".
Oh, are you really? You're 6'5".
Yeah,
So
yeah,
you're
unfortunately.
really so your presence, even if you weren't in great shape, just being so you've got the
Oh,
double-edged sword. You're 6'5" and you're in great shape.
well,
Just so you
the
know, as you age, it's going to get even worse for you because it's people. So I walked into Fuddruckers the other day, and I was in a tank top,
yeah,
and everyone turned around and looked at me, and I'm just so my point going back to how I know it's in our DNA. My scientific proof, my research is the amount of times men come up to me and they want to strangers will come up to me and want to have a conversation with me, and they're
100%.
very complimentary, and a lot of them want to know how I do what I do. That's how I know
It is.
it's in our DNA. But I think
It
a
is.
lot of men, right? A lot of men are denying that
Yep.
in society. They're denying that, being a masculine man now, obviously, we know in the culture we're in it's
Unfortunately.
looked down upon,
Yeah.
which is ridiculous. And I think that's being done
Yeah.
on purpose.
Sure.
But that's how I know it's in our DNA.
It is. I ask this question to people all the time when I was in my mid 20s. Okay, so a little background is we've been following each other for years. And 2018 at my biggest, I was 270 pounds. I was a mutant of a human being. Could barely tie my shoes. It was
I remember
just
that.
it was just not comfortable, but it was awesome. Okay, so I got into conversations. I used, I don't drink, but like when I go out and stuff like that, you'll have people like, oh, I don't want to get as big as you. And I'm like, so,
Don't worry, you won't.
and that's, in my mind, that's always the
Yeah.
response. And I asked them this question. I said, did you follow? I mean, most of them are in their 20s or 30s at that point when I was talking to them. And I'm like, did you follow cartoons and comic books and stuff as a kid? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, if I told you 5 years you could be Superman, look just like him, no way in hell you would tell me no. You would, if I
Great point.
told you that's the end goal. You could look like
Yes.
Superman
Yes.
because you idolize Superman and all these X-Men and whatever you want to call it. Every
Yeah.
child did. Captain
Yeah.
America. If I told you that you could do that just by eating right
Right.
and working out, and you have 5 years, and I guarantee in that 5 years, you'll do it. You'll look amazing. And they're like, well, it's 5. I said, no, no, no. Answer the question, yes or no. But
Yeah.
yeah, well, yeah. And I'm like, right. I did the same thing. I ate chicken and rice and broccoli for a decade and trained my face off 5 to 6 days a week. And that's what happened. So
Yeah.
it's not that I just woke up and I had the remedy in my head. I said it was just monotonous, consistent work to get there. So when people come up to you and then they're like, hey, Tony, how old are you? Like, okay. And I always want to ask that question is, well, why don't you, why don't you start or what I always
Yeah.
ask that, like, what has
What?
stopped you
Right.
from doing maybe what I do in a very respectful way? And the answer is just like, oh, it's time. I don't have
Yeah.
time. I don't have,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? Like, so I'm just like, no, I'm up at 4:30 to go to the gym because I have to be at a doctor's office by 8 a.m. So I'm doing it early, or I'm in the afternoon, but whatever. So I just ask you, like, answer this question is, I'm sure you get that, like, oh, I don't have time. What's your response to that?
Well, you know, there are now I do have some people that I've asked that question to, and when I dig in a little bit, I say, okay, I'm going to give you a pass. Although I think
Yeah,
95% of the people out there, you've got the time.
yeah,
You can make an hour up. If you've got time for Netflix, you've got time to watch a TV show with your wife, you've got time for the gym. So there's still, there most people don't really have an excuse. But even for the let's say 5% have a legitimate excuse. This guy's
yeah.
working 12 hours a day
Single
out in the
dad,
hot sun.
maybe,
Right,
or
got to
single
come home,
mom.
take care. But
Yeah,
my answer to that is okay, but you can eat better. You
yeah,
can eat better, can't you?
yeah.
Most people don't have an excuse. I did some math yesterday, and I spend about $100 a month on Starbucks. I
Ooh,
get a triple shot espresso. It's three dollars
yeah.
and 55 cents. I get it. I usually get one a day. And so I did the math, and then I was talking to a friend of ours, and she's running at about 350 a month. So I
Ooh.
asked this question, and I'm going somewhere with this. So I asked the question on my Facebook, and I know a lot of people probably did the math, but were too embarrassed. And that's why I asked the question. I really didn't expect people. If you wanted to answer, great. But what I wanted people to do is I wanted people to actually take a look at what they spend just on Starbucks alone. And one lady was like 400 a month. So my thing with that is a lot of people who say they don't have the time, that's really not a good excuse. But some people say they don't have the money.
Mm.
Yes,
Yep.
you do. It's
10
40
bucks a
bucks a
month.
month to join. It's 10
Well,
bucks.
Planet Fitness,
Yeah,
what I call it. Yeah, we'll just use that for example. Yeah,
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 it's
10
10 bucks a
bucks.
month. So time and money, but people, what people have to understand is I did another video and I put it like this. It's like working at a job for 30 years and you don't put anything in the bank. You have zero savings, and now it's time to retire and you have zero in
Yep,
the bank.
yep.
Same thing with your body. You're gonna age. You're gonna hit 65 one day, and if you've done nothing to stay in shape, to stay active, to be at some level
Yep.
of fitness, you're gonna pay. I got into it with a friend of mine who lives out in Texas. Basically, she went on her page and was basically bragging how she lost 20 pounds. And she wanted to make sure that I knew she did it without exercise. So that inspired me to do a video on the importance of exercise and how the bill is coming one day
Yeah,
and you're going to pay. The check's coming. That bill's coming where you're going to look back 30 years and you haven't invested anything into yourself physically as far as working out, exercising, doing some sort of training,
yeah,
and the bill's coming.
yep.
And I was shocked at how many people were on her side because she actually shared the video on her page and called
Mm.
herself out. And then all her groupies, all her friends came at me. And I had to go back and forth with each one of them. But the point is this, you don't have to be a bodybuilder.
Huh.
I think that's the first thing I say to people is, listen, I'm not expecting you to stand on a stage one day,
No,
but
right.
as a man, I think that you need to have some level of muscularity, fitness and just to feel good and look good.
Yeah, that you're absolutely correct. And I did see the video you posted on her 20 pound, like her 20 pound
Yeah,
loss. Awesome, phenomenal.
good for you.
And
Yeah.
to 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 piggyback off that, I started a it's a social experiment. I'm sorry, me might have seen it. I'm doing for six, I think I added 12 people this time, a free nutrition and training regimen for
Oh
90
yeah.
days. So what I'm doing is it's free. I'm not their coach though. They don't contact me, ask me all these questions. It's I give you this and you follow it blindly. Just do it.
Yeah.
And and that's it. And if you have issues, of course, I'm like, listen, get a hold of me. But in terms of like, there's no check-ins, there's nothing. It's I want to see your before and your after. If you put in the work, and I explained to each of them via email, I explained it. I said, listen, here's how it works. This is 100% benefit to you. If they're real customized plans to your goals and all that stuff, and your workout regimen. This is to keep and hold yourself accountable. But in 3 months, science shows if you consistently do something for 3 months, you will continue it for the rest of your life. That's what I'm trying to accomplish. And
Yeah.
to get into it, you have to tell me why you want to do it. Because not that I'm picking certain people, but at the end, your why will be brought back up if you finish it. Is it strong enough to keep you consistent to do it? Some people say they
Yeah.
have kids, they have is that they're getting over some of this stuff or whatever happens, and they just lost their way for a few years and whatever, and great. But I've seen this was so funny. I've only had two people finish out of six from last time.
Yeah.
The one
That's crazy.
person, the one person who one of them who finished had zero reason to do it. He's like, I just don't have a
Wow.
plan. I don't have a plan. And
Right.
I didn't really necessarily want to spend the money to get a coach. And I'm dedicated. He buys protein from me every month on the dot. Like he's consistent. So I'm like, you definitely want this in some way, shape, or form, but there's no reason you're not. He is not a heavy guy. He continuously went at it. And he's still posting afterwards, like every few days on his workouts and stuff like that. It's keeping him consistent. And I go back to what you said on losing that 20 pounds. So you have this woman who's doing nutrition and she did a great job. I literally tip my hat to her. Awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, you can lose weight, but are you losing muscle? Or are you losing fat or water or a combination of
Right.
all of them? So
Yeah.
getting into the gym with cardio or getting a weight training going is going to help build your skeletal muscle for, like you said, your bills come and due. That is what you need it for. Because when I was in when I would a few years ago, and I was in and out of surgeries all day, the person's BMI was a big deal,
Oh yeah.
and the doctor, the nurses, all the staff, if they had a BMI of like 37, and they're like, literally, they were like, okay, this is a tough one. The anesthesiologist is freaking out because the person could just, they have to intubate them because they can't be. So you're at a point where you're sick, but it's hard to operate on you because you're so far gone that
Right.
that's what I try to tell people. I'm like, listen, if it's not for being looking and feeling good, it's for the future of something going wrong. And
Yeah.
not that I want to
Right.
happen, but you know as well as I do, you can go in there for an appendicitis or some crazy crap and you could
Yes.
die
Yeah.
because of comorbidities, because of BMI, because of all these different things. So I see it from both angles. I see it from the bodybuilding side and I see it from the healthcare side. And it's
Right.
scary because we're now going into the new months of the new, whatever you want to call it, coming.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
All the people are getting up in arms. And I'm like, well, if you're healthy, you're fine. Don't worry about it.
Right.
But if you're
Right.
not, then, and
Right.
again, they never look internally. They're never like,
Yeah.
well, what am I doing wrong that I'm not healthy enough to scare away a flu? You know what I mean?
Right. Yes.
So, um, but to that
Yeah.
woman again, congratulations to her.
Yeah.
So,
And what I really didn't like about it was she's got a pretty good following. Well, I know she does on Facebook. Used to have a really good following on YouTube, and she, for some reason, she just she didn't want to do it anymore, which I thought was
Right.
strange. But you know, she was almost promoting it, and I did the video, and I didn't mention her name. You know, I just said a friend of mine, and I thought it was interesting that she actually posted on her page and basically let everyone know that I was talking about her. And then I had some people come at me saying, "How dare you call someone out?" I'm like, I didn't mention her name once, nor did I tag her. She
Right.
actually called herself out,
Right.
and to the point where she was almost proud of it. And listen, I don't, again, it doesn't have to be your number one priority, but it should be in the top three. Listen, this
Yeah.
is a struggle. This is a struggle in my marriage. You know, an amazing wife. She's, you know, she looks great. A lot of
Yeah.
people, it's funny. We went to the Post Malone concert, and again, walking through the crowd, and there's these two ladies, and one of them just like screams like at us. It was almost a little embarrassing. She's like, "Oh my God, you guys are the most fit couple I've seen so far." And I'm looking around, I'm thinking, well, that's not hard to do at this concert. But you know, and you know, the funny part is
It's true.
she thought my wife was like, because she's standing next to me and she looks, you know, she looks great. She just assumed that, and even my wife said, "Yeah, I don't really work out." But this is a battle in my marriage where I I'm just, you know, I said, "Listen, this has nothing to do with aesthetics. You
Yeah.
look." She does. She looks. She's going to be 49 September 23rd. And you
Yeah.
look great.
Yeah.
But I have been telling my wife, I said for 10 years, because she doesn't particularly like working out.
My
You
wife
know,
doesn't
she's
either.
honest. Yeah,
Doesn't either.
she's honest with it. It blows
Yeah.
my mind. But I said, listen, and this, you know, this goes for everyone. You're going to wake up one day and you're going to be 50, and you're going to look, it's possible that you're going to look in the mirror and you're not going to like what you see. And then you want to get started, because it's going to
Right.
be that much harder
Right.
to start at 50. Now, granted, she's been going lately because she wants to go and because she's
Sure.
making an effort. And
Right.
the crazy part is she feels better about herself.
Yeah.
I don't want to go into too many details, but just
Sure. I
things
get it.
just you
Yeah.
yeah.
I
So it's
do.
like there. So we are such advocates for this because we know it's
Yeah.
like it's like if you figured out a way, a foolproof way to make $5 million, you would want to share that with everyone you know.
Yeah. 100%.
You would want to share
100%.
that. So, you know, people do come to me, and here's a, you know, and I'm sure this has happened to you. You know, I posted the other day on my Facebook, and I wasn't sure if I was going to post it because I didn't want to sound arrogant, but you know, if something is true, I'll post it. But
I know that. Yep.
you know, I am a walking billboard, especially because I'm going to be 58 soon. I'm a walking billboard for what you can look like if you just consistently train, eat right. You don't have to go crazy. So basically, what I said was, I love the fact that I don't even have to talk to some people, and I can still be an inspiration to them.
Yep.
And I said that because I had a complete stranger come up to me at work one day, an older gentleman. I think he was Middle Eastern. You know, he just walked up to me and he said, "Hey," it was kind of random. He said, "Hey, I used to weigh like 220 and I'm down to like 185." And I was like, "Oh." In my head, I'm going, "That's a random way to start a conversation." And I said, "That's awesome." And then he was like, "It's because of you." And I was like, "Oh, really?" He says, "Yeah, I follow you on Facebook."
Nice.
And I was like blown away. And he's like, "And you have just inspired me." And he goes, "You're 100% right. Keep doing what you're doing." He says, "Now I just need to get my mental state. You know, I need to start thinking more positive." I guess he's maybe a negative thinker.
Yeah.
But you know, people want it. I think the problem is, Alex, is it's a little bit of work.
It is. And
It's a little bit of work.
in today's world, in today's society, working hard is a very strange thing, and I get that. I get it. It's not the norm. It's not the norm for everybody, but you, your point about the gentleman that come up to you is that's a motivator for me, and I'm assuming you as well. When you hear those things, because
Absolutely.
you have an
You there? You froze up. You're frozen, Alex. And now I have no audio. I don't know if you can hear me. Give me a thumbs up if you can hear me. I can't hear you. Can you hear me? Give me a thumbs up if you can hear me. Yeah, I don't know why I can't hear you. Hold on a second. Can you hear me? Alex, give me a thumbs up if you can hear me. How about now? Can you hear me? Yeah, it's coming through all gargled up. I can't barely hear you. Still can't hear you.